infrastructure development and a lot of different things. World Bank is a huge source of knowledge base for us in developing different policies for Nepal. I would like to thank World Bank for the continued support to Nepal's development, and personally to David, who has been my not long standing, almost more than 1 year now, year and a half, and we share a lot of things. We have in common a lot of things. On the current economic scenario, there's a reference to the Gen Z movement of September 8 and 9, which caused serious damage to some private assets and public assets. As you know, the total damage is in the tune of 200 billion. That does not include the loss of stock and loss of business. Put together, FNCI has one kind of estimate, and the government has another kind of estimate. But the scenario of economy, the estimates of growth for the current year and all those things, I possibly beg to differ from my colleagues of World Bank. You may have your own estimation. I have my own estimation. To be on the point, as you said, the service sector may suffer in the rest of the year. October 2025 happens to be the month in which Nepal received the largest number of tourists at any time in the last 40-50 years. 128,000 tourists in a single month, post a violent month. September happened to be a violent month, October picked up, and November also has a very good picture. On the other activities in the service sector, things appear to be good. I do not say they are very rosy and very good, but the proxy indicators that we use oftentimes to measure the performance and the heat of the economy is the value-added tax collection, which essentially refers to the consumption, the customs collection, which refers to both the output and also consumption, because more than half of the imports we make is for the manufacturing. The customs revenue collection has gone up by more than 13% as of today. Value-added tax collection has gone up by more than 12% as of today. Excise collection is nearly 20% over and above the last year's number. So excise basically comes from manufacturing. So what do you see about the picture of manufacturing, of service, is quite different from what my colleagues in the World Bank saw. So we'll sit and do the discussion, but ultimately the numbers will prove when National Statistical Office releases these numbers, maybe around the middle of this Nepali fiscal year and end of the English calendar year. As soon as the damages were known to the government, within a period of less than 7 days, we came together with a collective policy response to the damages caused by the early September violence, and that was the business recovery plan, as you call it, which is a document produced jointly by Nepal Rashtra Bank and Ministry of Finance and other development authorities. In the past, there was a time when there was oftentimes a conflict between the monetary policy and fiscal policy, one policy remaining silent, the other becoming excessively aggressive, and as a result of which there were negative outcomes, or there were other consequences, negative consequences of the policies intended to alleviate the economic problems. This time around, it was a collective effort, and we tried to address whatever was possible and whatever was in fact requested by the private sector. I'm happy to report here, I think it will be corroborated by our private sector colleagues, that everything the private sector told us at that time was adopted blow by blow. We said that this is the moment government should be generous, this is the moment Nepal Rashtra Bank should be generous, and we addressed almost all of those. Now, based on the reports I am getting, that almost all of the private sector entities have started reconstruction. Along with that, government agencies also have started reconstruction. You might see the buildings around Sridhar complex or within Sridhar complex, and also outside Kathmandu Valley. In many places, tax offices were totally burned down, all files gone, customs. but services resumed immediately, and most of them have moved to safer and better places, either reconstructed or relocated. So those things are happening, and we expect that the full-fledged reconstruction on the public sector side, mostly the municipalities and provinces, will begin very soon. Just as the recommendation or the analysis made by the Nepal Development Update November 2025, the misallocation or misappropriation of government resources or low prioritizing, those things were also addressed immediately after the formation of this government. Within the first 5 days itself, the system, not me in the Ministry of Finance, but the system of Ministry of Finance identified projects which are not prepared. There was no groundwork at all, or projects which were in the book, but you could not locate where the location is. The system identified such projects, and in the spirit of allocating efficiency or making budget more responsive to the needs of the economy, nearly, if I state the numbers will be very high. I think 1,200 plus small projects with no value for money, absolutely nothing, no contribution to the GDP or employment or anything else, which could have been possibly misused to benefit the political party cadres, were dropped. They are currently on hold. We are examining still whether some of such projects were really the need of the people, whether such projects had the basic initial work complete, for example, the design, the estimate, and the possible completion period, because you cannot start a project which has a life of around 200 years. As my colleague just now presented, that even the national pride projects have a lifetime of 41 years to complete and give benefit to the people. So we would like to shorten that to maybe about 5 years or 6 years. So within the, if possible, within the medium-term expenditure framework. My distinguished colleague, Dr. Khanal, I also happen to be Khanal, and Dr. Tilly Khanal had given a report a long time ago. We are implementing that report to ensure that the resources government has is used properly. And many of the government offices also have been done away with. We have also scaled down the institutional presence of tax collecting officers, which was not necessary. If you are able to collect taxes by using less money, that will be more cost effective. So we are examining not only the Ministry of Finance institutions, but also other institutions, and wherever possible, merging them or handing them over to the local governments. I conclude with these remarks on the first part. On the second part, the major findings, these were discussed with me for several weeks before I unexpectedly and to my surprise was inducted in the cabinet. Before my induction, I was deeply involved with this process of examining why the public investment management in Nepal is poor. All the issues identified were the ones that was discussed with me, and I was in line with the conclusion arrived at in those several meetings we had. Many mundane and obviously looking things have become a very important and very critical thing, like felling a tree for a very important national project, national pride project, taking over 2 years, 3 years, sometimes absolutely becoming impossible, and project totally stalled. Problem of land acquisition, problem of the valuation of the bids. Although our law clearly says that each bid the government agencies choose should be based on the substantially responsive, lowest evaluated bid principle. That does not say it should be lowest bid. That has 3 other qualifications. It has to be substantially responsive and then evaluated. So you need to evaluate not based on the cost, you need to evaluate based on the technical competence, based on the financial competence of the potential contractor or the bidders. So because our system and people oftentimes would like to avoid the risks, what they do is they take the easier path, and the easier one is to examine the numbers. They are visible. But examining the substantial, the responsiveness, going through all the documents presented by the bidders, verifying with relevant agencies, people don't even verify how much accruals they have, how many contracts they have already taken and not fully completed in time. So you do not do the proper homework and get trapped by lowest bid. So we have to fully require our agencies to fully comply with the spirit of and the wordings of the public procurement law. In addition to that, if in spite of doing all those things, if you suspect that the bid is very low and there is no possibility that within that given amount the contractor will be able to complete the project in time, the questions should be asked. And this is what the recommendation the Nepal Development Update is making. Very good. So we will definitely address them. Except for the growth scenario forecast, I fully support the conclusions given by this Nepal Development Update. I thank the World Bank team for producing this excellent report. Now I would like to add a couple of more points. Group here and also my colleagues would be expecting that you are the ones who are chairing this high-level economic advisory reform commission in the past. What are you doing now? That might be the question. And also evidence-based policy making. Whatever you're doing now is trying to implement the commission reforms, recommendations, and not only the commission recommendations, all the recommendations made in the past. For example, the recommendations made by Dr. Khanal's Public Expenditure Review Commission on the PFM side, that's the most important reference document for us. On the macroeconomic reform side, the High-Level Economic Affairs Commission had given a number of reforms. Those reforms that are possible under the given legal framework, those reforms that are possible under the current institutional framework, and those reforms that are possible under the current mandate of the government. The mandate, basically, I would like to reiterate and repeat, they are related to holding election in time, number one, improving governance, number two, and eliminating corruption. In all those these fronts, we had a number of institutional policy and procedural recommendations which we are implementing. To cite a few examples, the improvement in the trade facilities or reducing the cost of doing business for international trade, we immediately introduced the online valuation system requiring the custom officials to follow exactly what the gap valuation rules say and not go by the arbitrary problem-creating diktat that they oftentimes issue for the valuation of the imported materials. So that is under implementation. We are reviewing the full audit system and saying that this has to be faceless in the future and creating less hassles and problems for the taxpayers. We are pushing the taxpayer services further out. The outreach has been increased to municipal level, which will happen within a year, but immediately 52 different municipalities and 77 districts will have taxpayer offices, so that will ease taxpayers at least to get the PAN certificate, to deposit taxes, and maybe get some kind of services from without any hassles. So removing those kind of barriers for tax compliance has already been introduced. In the expenditure management, you have already seen the reforms. There are oppositions. People without any authority were using government vehicles for 26 years, just because they happen to be a very senior political leader in the past. No law, no rule. The enforcement of law is a very important part of the governance. So we said that whether you are former speakers or former prime minister, we have due respect to you, but the benefits you are using from the government treasury, from taxpayers' money, is not legal. You will have to refund. They were refunded. We got more than 30 vehicles back. We got more than 1,000 police forces back because they were serving those families, doing things that was not their part of the business. So that is also the reform on the proper use of government's money and enforcing the law. So governance. On the corruption, 18 cases have been filed by CIA in just 2 months, which did not happen in the past within 2 months. AML, more than 12 billion of cases have been filed in 6 different places. Baglu, Pokhara, Kathmandu, and that process is going on. We are talking to business people that honest businesses will be promoted, full support from the government, but whosoever goes against the principles of good governance, because good governance does not mean this is the policy for the government only. Good governance means the policy for the corporate sector, private sector as well. Governance should be good everywhere. The government alone being good and the rest of the society, if it is bad, we cannot have a proper business environment, proper investment climate. So as to have proper investment climate, level playing field, opportunity for all, equal access, these are the fundamental principles which no private sector should also try to deviate from. So we are asking private sector as well to isolate bad elements, and they allow the government to take action as per the law. Nothing will be done over and above the law. So with this brief note on the reforms that the current government is implementing, as you know, we have a lot of things to do, so I am in a hurry to attend another meeting to be chaired by Prime Minister, so I beg excuse, and I would have wanted to talk to my students here how things are now since I left. I left in 2022 only, this campus. I was an adjunct, what they call as an adjunct professor, not full professor. Put together, I spent about 19 years in Kusum. From the day Kusum was set up, I was the tutor for accounting and financial management. And when I closed, I took over from Ajit Wakli. He was teaching business environment, very complex topic. I taught business environment when I left in 2022. Thank you very much.